And so what that means is, this, for example, where we have walls on both sides, the street elevation is up here, the creek is down here, and our planting is going to occur, closer to the creek elevation than the top of street elevation. And then likewise, our top of street elevation is street elevation is here. The planting is all really below that. And so I wanted to show this because really, even if we planted 36-inch box trees, you're not going to get an immediate screening benefit from it. It's going to take a couple years to come into play. We anticipate, based on the plant palette that's developed here, that it's going to come in pretty fast. Probably 1 to 2 years, we're going to start seeing a screening benefit from this stuff. Taylor was nice enough to come up with some depictions of Coda Street. Coda Street was built, I think, in 2016.
Yes.
So this is from Google Earth. You can see this is the street view from Coda Street. The creek is pretty bare. New landscaping is planted, but it's all very small. And then he has a couple other photos. This is from March 2019. You can see that the vegetation grows in very fast. And this is from June 2019. So it's healthy and it's fast growing. There were some comments last time about our long-term maintenance for this area. We're required by AEIR to have a 5-year monitoring and maintenance plan, and so that involves removal and replanting of failing trees and plants. So we're not going anywhere. We're here to make sure that the stuff succeeds. And I'd also like to mention that there is a private property landscape plan that's been developed by the city and the county. And basically what that is, it is a motivation for private property owners to plant these riparian trees on private property adjacent to the Lower Mission Creek project. They can be reimbursed up to $4,000 for those tree costs. So that would probably be appropriate for Reach 4. When we get further along to Reach 4, we'll engage the property owners with that program. It's not really appropriate for Reach 3 because all we have behind our creek walls is parking lot. There's really no planting opportunity for Reach 3.
Commission for Wednesday, June 6th, 2019. If we could all rise for the pledge. Ready for roll call?
Chair Clark. Vice Chair Perry. Commissioner Baker.
Here.
Commissioner Lesnar Buxton. Commissioner Longstreet.
Here.
Commissioner Martinez Cohen.
Here.
Commissioner McGill.
Here. Thank you. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Nope. Any written communications? Nope. Okay. We have space for public comment, but it doesn't look like anyone's here. Do I still need to read the thing? Okay. Any member of the public may address the commission for up to 2 minutes on any subject within the jurisdiction of the commission that is not scheduled for a public discussion before the commission. The total amount of time for public comments will be 15 minutes. And it looks like nobody's here, so we'll move on to Youth Council report.
Chair Clark and Commissioners, I'm going to have Neighborhood Outreach Services Supervisor Susan Young come up and do tonight's presentation.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Again, I'm Susan Young. Summertime, and it's not as easy to get our young people here, so I'm going to do the report for them. They did give me some things they wanted. So on that note, we did have 11 seniors to graduate. Many are off to. 2 are off to Berkeley University, 2 to Pomona University, 1 to City College, 1 to Arizona State, 1 to San Diego State, and there's a couple more I don't remember, but they're doing very well, and so we'll miss them very much. On that note, 2 of the members are going to stay locally, and they have elected to stay until their 19th birthday, so that will be really good to help the new members that we have. And speaking of new members, the City Council appointed 6 new members 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, and so we still do need representatives from Dos Pueblos, so if anyone is listening from Dos Pueblos, and we need at least 1 from a private school and San Marcos. Of course, we have to wait until the recruitment period, but if they want to join now to just kind of start volunteering and to see what the Youth Council is about, we always encourage that. We are tentatively have scheduled their leadership training for September 7th and 8th, and so it's always good if the volunteers are there. They can be part of that training and just really kick it off with when they are appointed then. Couple of things that the Youth Council has been doing. One of the things that they just finished doing, and we're hoping that it'll be able to come back to you guys and you'll see it, is that they just completed about 3 PSAs in conjunction with the Coalition Against Gun Violence. And I've seen the temporary footage, and it's excellent, and it's all about gun violence and how it affects young people. There's one that talks about the effect of young people and how their minds, that they've had so many drills with it, that they become a little bit insensitive, and they may just talk about planning their events for the weekend, even though something has happened with that. It's really good, and so maybe perhaps we'll get a chance to bring it to you guys and you'll see it, but hopefully you'll see it when it's aired. So it's really a good thing. Thank you to Councilman Oscar Gutierrez. He really helped the Youth Council to put it together and volunteer his time. Of course, thanking the Coalition Against Gun Violence. And a special thanks to Roberta Payan. She's the one that really helped gather the youth together and got them in their place. And so we're really looking forward to that. The Youth Council received a grant donation from the County Public Health in the amount of about $1,500. And these funds will be used so that the Youth Council can take in some training and also do some education as it relates to youth-focused tobacco issue, especially now, and as you may have known on the news recently, there's a big uptake in teens using e-cigarettes and a lot of vaping and the flavor. And so the Youth Council will be working with the county to try to provide some education to both teens and adults of the effect of vaping. With that grant, they were also given enough money to do media camps with TVSB again, and they're going to produce some PSAs on that issue, so there'll be some more educational PSAs that are coming about. And so we're thankful to the county for providing that. There's a new chair. You've met her before. It's Quinn Stefan, and she's a very astute young lady. And our new vice chair is going to be Julia Minor, and the other positions will be selected at their one summer meeting, which will be August 12th. It's going to be held at the Davis Center. There'll be no meeting in July. And there will be a special meeting, probably August 26th, where they're going to get some training from the city on harassment. And that's pretty much their report. I'll take this opportunity, too, if you did not know, my last day with the city will be July 5th. So I leave with mixed emotions, glad to be retiring, but at the same time, really sad to be leaving the Youth Council. But I wanted to introduce or to let you know that Roberta Payan is going to be working really with our teens over at the Franklin Center with some of the situations that are going on with teens. It's a really needed position for us to really work with our teens on the east side and to try to provide some of the leadership training that we provide for our Youth Council to them. And with that, Isis Castaneda will be working as the staff advisor for the Santa Barbara Youth Council. And so we want to make sure that you get to know Isis because you'll be seeing a lot of her as well. And that's our report.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.
I recently had the opportunity to be involved with a couple of applicants going through Youth Council, answering their questions and supporting them. So I got to see your emails and your encouragement and your support and outreach and how you made all those kids feel not intimidated and welcome and good enough to be there. And I was really impressed. And I think it's going to be lost that you're retiring, but thank you for all you've done.
Thank you very much. And thank all you, especially BB, I've known since I've been here. And so thank you for the support that you give to young people, and we wish you best to continue in doing that. Thank you.
And I would say to your successor, we're looking for a youth member up here. We haven't had one in a while, and it is a very valuable point of view to have on the commission. And I think if you have any young people who have the time to do this, I know the group you get are involved in everything, but I do miss that point of view for service and opinions to us. They're not a voting member, but they do get to weigh in.
And just to let you know, Commissioner, we did advertise for it along with the Youth Council. That's kind of the way that they're going now. So we'll just make sure that we still encourage someone to be a part of this wonderful board as well.
Thank you. So we've come to, I'd like to backtrack a second and say that I watched the interviews, and I know not everybody who interviewed got a spot, but I found that there was so much talent in this community, and I hope if people are watching this and you didn't make it on the Youth Council and you still want to do it, that you come back. I didn't get on the commission the first time I tried, and I came back, and I'm really enjoying it, and I think I'm productive, so please come back and interview again. Commissioner Committee Assignment Reports. We'll start with you, Mr. Baker.
So I wasn't able to attend the Golf Advisory Committee, but I did review all their attachments, and one of them was related to the performance of the golf course. And with summer approaching, it is due to increase, which means increased revenue and just increased maintenance needs and things like that. So I just encourage everyone to get out there and try their swing. So thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner McGill, please.
If I tried my swing, I'd need a lot more maintenance. The Park Foundation meeting was canceled for June.
Commissioner Clark, I want to first thank you for that very positive close to the Youth Council. Did not attend Arts and Crafts this month I don't even recall if there was a meeting or not. That's what I thought. I did take the time to walk the show this past month, and it was actually very inspiring. Some of the questions that are still hot on everyone's lips down there is the integration of the show. There seems to be an issue with monitors, and there seems to be very high interest in the advertising funds and how it is being allocated. All in all, it was a wonderful Sunday walk on a sunny day. So,
Thank you.
I also was not able to attend the Creeks meeting, but they did receive information on the water quality research and monitoring program. There's updates that are available online, and they have quite an extensive amount of information about how they're monitoring our water quality in Santa Barbara. So all that info is online.
Well, the local coastal plan, the sea level rise, De La Guerra Plaza have all been put on hold. So all meetings were canceled pretty much for the summer, so I did not attend them.
And our STAC meeting, we didn't have a quorum at the STAC meeting this month, so the Street Tree Advisory Committee did not meet. However, all the commissioners here today did go look at the trees, so we'll be able to accurately give our advice on the street tree removal requests. And do we have any ceremonial items?
Chair Clark and Commissioners, we actually have one. Justin Van Mullum this month is receiving his 5-year pin. Justin's an essential member of the project management team. He's been before the commission several times, providing project updates and workshops out in the community. Some of the projects that he's leading or has led, I just want to call those out. The Cabrillo Ballpark, he was an integral part of the design and the equipment that was spec'd out in the opening. Kids World, the renovation that went on at Kids World. And then the next 4 projects, he's currently actively working on the Cabrillo Pavilion renovation. He's the primary staff contact for the renovation project at the Cabrillo Pavilion, the Louise Lowry Davis Center renovation, the Bonet Park renovation, and the West Beach Splash Playground. On a personal note, I'd just like to add, working with Justin, he always goes that extra step and checks with operations staff. So as we're going through a design process, he's checking, what's going to be on the other side once it opens. So he works with Recreation and Parks Division staff to make sure when we have a project and it's finally ready to open for the public, staff are in a position to maintain it proactively rather than reactively. And I can't say enough about how Justin does that, both for the project management team and for the department.
Thank you. I hope that he's with us for many more years.
And they were just before Historic Landmarks this afternoon and got moved on. The project was approved for 1,000 Steps, right?
Correct.
And
Chair
moved
Clark.
on to planning.
Correct, yes. 1,000 Steps.
Watching Justin do his work.
Thank you. Summary of council actions. Would anyone like to make them, or do you have any questions of Mr. Hanna?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All in favor? Aye. That makes it easier. But for the minutes. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions or comments or revisions? Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move that we waive the reading of the minutes and approve the minutes of the meeting of May 22nd, 2019.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. And that brings us to Mr. Downey.
Chair Clark and Commissioners, before we start on the items, I want to remind the Commission that in order to approve a removal of a setback tree, we'll need to make one of the findings listed in Municipal Code 15.24.090. I'll help you along with some suggestions for some that might apply. The first item on your agenda is 1844/1850 East Las Tunas Road. The tree is on the property line, so it's sort of on both properties. The applicant is proposing to remove the tree and replace it with a rather large box specimen tree. The previous owners for both properties came to agreements about pruning practices on this tree to retain views, and that action has caused the canopy to develop at a lower level. The tree is pretty much set in its canopy at this point. It won't get much larger than it is now. Staff determined that the proposed replacement tree has a bit greater potential for canopy. It's also going to be placed so that it's not in direct line of views. So there would be a long-term community benefit to the neighborhood to have a tree that can achieve greater canopy. Staff recommends that the commission make the finding that the neighborhood will not be materially affected by the tree, and approve the removal on the condition that the proposed 48-inch box olive tree is planted.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions, starting with where is the replacement tree going to go? You said it's not going to be in view line, so where will it go?
Chair Clark and Commissioners, they haven't provided exact details. They've just indicated it's going to go a little farther back and be placed on the property nearest to you in this photo rather than straddle the property line. So it's going to shift slightly, so it's going to not have as many issues with the view that this tree right at the front of the property has.
So it'll be on the other side of the driveway?
Towards the 1840 Las Tunas house?
Chair Clark and Commissioner McGill, they are proposing it for it to still be between the two properties, but in the space between the driveways, but again, farther back and shifted a little to one side so that it's on one person's property.
We're just asking questions, not right now, right? Not expressing our concerns. I'd be concerned that any tree planted in the general vicinity they're saying it has the potential to achieve greater canopy. But I can't imagine where they can plant a tree in those front yards that it's not going to obstruct some kind of view. So I don't know that I have complete faith that any tree with the potential to achieve its greater canopy is going to be allowed to achieve its greatest canopy.
Chair Clark and Commissioners, I did have a conversation with the applicants. The work that was done for this view was prior owners for both properties. Both property owners value trees. In fact, this photograph is a little deceiving. That darker green at the top is another tree in the background. They do relish their trees because of the way this canopy is developed. It's in the way of things, and they just want to get a fresh start and develop a tree that can really grow and not impact the driveways and the street, and the shifting it will severely decrease the chances that it's going to be an issue for these new owners.
Does anyone have more questions at this time?
The tree is otherwise healthy, isn't it? I mean, it looked, yeah.
To me, the tree, I don't know what a normal species looks like. Probably not squat and thick like this one, but it looked vibrant and healthy, and the canopy is pretty substantial. And I looked up the sight lines of both driveways, and I don't really see that the tree is encroaching on either driveway. So when you guys make your decision, I know in the applicant's request it did say the tree was encroaching, but on the driveway on the left, there's absolutely no branches. There are no branches hanging over that driveway, and there's one lateral branch that hangs a little bit over the bottom of the right driveway. And I guess my other question is, if they replace the tree with a non-fruiting olive, is that what they were going to do? Do you remember?
Chair Clark, let me look at their application real quick.
A fruitless olive. Yeah, I was just curious as to how long it takes that particular species to achieve a size similar to the current tree.
So you raised a couple of questions. I'll kind of try to answer all of them. Based on the size of the trunk of this tree, it should be at least twice as tall as it is now. And it would be a rounded crown, similar to the one in the background, but not as big. This tree can get to about 40, 45 feet tall when they're planted in our parkways along our streets. In an open space like this, it has greater potential. But because of the pruning that occurred early in its development, it wasn't allowed to develop that larger canopy, and it has set its canopy at this point. It will never gain that stature. The other thing I wanted to mention is not only the driveway, but it does hang over the street rather low there. These are all items that they brought up in their application process. a 48-inch box tree, olive tree, can typically be about 12 to 15 feet tall with about a 10-foot spread at the time it's installed.
I would make a motion at this time to concur with the staff recommendation for the conditional removal at 1844 and 1850 Las Tunas of the red flowering gum in replacement with a fruitless olive, 48-inch box fruitless olive, and that it is pursuant to the Municipal Code 15.24.090 that it will not affect the character of the neighborhood. Is that?
I'll second that.
For discussion, I'm just going to say that I also am going to agree with you based on the fact that the owners do value their trees and they will plant something that will achieve a similar height and canopy within a relatively short period of time. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And so moved.
Chair Clark and Commissioners, the second item is 640 West Ortega. There's a pine tree, and its location is unfortunate. The back of this property backs up to Calle Canyon, I believe the name of the street is, which is an elevation of 120 feet higher than where this tree exists, approximately. There's a storm drain that collects water that runs down Calle Canyon, and it empties out just below this tree. The storm drain line is directly adjacent to the trunk of this tree, close enough that it is extremely likely that the tree will impact that storm drain, which could cause the stormwater to back up, cause the slope to fail, and create real issues for the citizens in this area. They're proposing to replace this tree with, they named three different varieties that they're interested in. Staff looked at the item and determined that pursuant to 15.24.090, the safety of persons or property dictates removal. This finding could be made by the Commission. The staff recommends that the Commission approve the removal on the condition that they make a replacement tree somewhere within the setback that can achieve a potential 25 feet in height. There is enough room in the setback to plant a tree well away from that storm drain so that the new tree won't impact the storm drain line as well. So staff recommends the Commission make one of the findings and approve the removal on the condition the tree that can achieve 25 feet in height be planted as a replacement.
Are there any questions of Mr. Downey?
I just went, by the way, it's a beautiful tree, so it is an unfortunate location. So when I stomped around up there, it was actually a little bit difficult to find a good spot that I would think of as a good spot to put a replacement tree, but I was wondering kind of about where the corner of the photo is, about up there when the driveway bends around. It looks like there is a dead oak tree. Would that be something that would be a viable replacement location? Are you familiar with where I'm talking about? I mean, does it have to be in the setback? Because I'm guessing that's just outside it.
Chair Clark and Commissioner McGill, that dead oak tree is just out of the setback. And if it were in the setback, it would be exempt from a permit requirement because it's dead. So they can remove that, wouldn't have to get a permit to remove that tree. But right where the driveway enters the property, if you were to look right, there is a flat area that is goes in between the lower neighbors and the upper neighbors. The section along here is still not too steep to plant a tree. So they can move it this direction, either in that low flat area or even up here on the slope, and it still would be a successful location.
But it would not be acceptable for them to put the replacement tree where the dead tree is now. That's really what I was questioning.
Chair Clark and Commissioner McGill, the recommendation moving to the commission would be that it be placed in the front setback. If the commission chose to not make that a requirement, that's certainly an option.
Are there any more questions? No? I would like to make a motion that we make the finding that the safety of persons or property dictates removal and approves the removal on the condition the tree is replaced with a minimum front setback, within the minimum front setback with a tree that has a potential to achieve 25 feet in height at 640 West Ortega.
Happy to second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Chair Clark and Commissioners, the last tree item on your agenda is 1206 Plaza del Monte. There are two California sycamores there. One is dead. As I mentioned before, it can be removed without a permit. We discussed that with the applicant. They didn't want to give any impression that they weren't moving forward in the correct direction, so they wanted to leave that dead tree on the application, although it doesn't require action from the commission. They're requesting to remove both trees. The second tree is in severe decline. Staff determined that there's little likelihood that the tree will recover from this decline. They're proposing to replace the tree with the tree, a medium to large tree in a similar location. Staff recommends that the commission could make a finding that the principles of good forestry management would best be served by this removal, and recommends that the trees be approved for removal on the condition it be replaced with at least one tree that has potential to achieve 35 feet in height.
Do you have any questions? My question was, I was surprised that the applicants had to apply to remove them. They looked so far from the street. What is the setback in that particular location? Do you happen to know?
Chair Clark and Commissioners, it's 30 feet at this location.
Okay.
I would make the motion to concur with staff and recommend that pursuant to the municipal code, that we approve the removal on the condition that the tree is replaced with at least one tree that can be achieve 35 feet in potential height. And yeah, based on the fact that it is adhering to the principles of good forestry management. And I like the terminology as well in the arborist's thing, lack of vigor or low vigor in the tree.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? No? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Mr. Hanna, can we please have the director's report?
Sure. Chair Clark and Commissioners. So for the month of June, trail work continues at Cold Springs, pretty much following the Thomas Fire and their debris flow. This month's effort for National Trails Day focused on the Cold Springs Trail. So on June 8th, 58 trail volunteers showed up to work at the National Trails Volunteer event. They did everything from sweeping the trail, small rock removal, grass removal, just general trail repair and brushing the trail. At the same time, there was some stone that was kept when the road was washed away at the trailhead And as the county are moving forward with their project, they made some stone available, and we're able to start actually restoring the actual trailhead at Cold Springs, which at one time we thought was not going to be an option. So the trail is actually getting pretty close to a point where it's already actually being used by the public, but we're getting to a point where it would be safe to use, and then we'll start working with the county in terms of providing safe access to that trailhead location. We really couldn't do it without all of the partners that are involved, not only the 58 trail volunteers, but Dave Everett, who really is just a key person, kind of keeps us up to date as staff, goes out and does things, takes initiative to lead these efforts. The Montecito Trails Foundation, Santa Barbara Mountain Bike Trail Volunteers, Los Padres Forest Association, Santa Barbara County Park staff, the U.S. Forest Service engine crew, as well as other volunteer groups. So we couldn't do it without them, so we want to recognize all of those groups. We opened the McKenzie Off-Leash Dog Park on Monday. It was a soft opening. So it's open. The first user was there at 7 a.m. with their dog, or maybe the dog was there with their parent. So they were there, and it's actually been a really well-received event if you haven't read any of the local media and so forth. The park, if you remember, is located at the corner of De La Vina and State Street there. It's open daily from 7 a.m. to sunset, and over the next 3 to 4 months, we'll be evaluating kind of how we're going to maintain and operate this park. It's new for the park's infrastructure, but those are the current hours. The off-leash area provides 2 enclosures, one for small dogs and one for large dogs, and other things that we did as part of this project that serve both the off-leash dog park area and the park. We put in new benches, a drinking fountain, enhanced the landscape. The park is conveniently located next to the dog agility classes that take place in the park on weekends. And you'll hear in future presentations, we still have work to do inside of McKenzie Park, including we have to renovate the restrooms for all park users as part of this project. We also have some neighborhood meetings going on at Bonet Park. You've received some presentations about the renovation of Bonet Park. The department is looking to submit a grant proposal on August 5th. It's a statewide park development and community revitalization program that's administered through the California Department of Parks and Recreation. To support this grant proposal, it's kind of incumbent on staff to go out and re-engage with the stakeholders. It actually helps us with our grant submittal. So we've had staff going out. We went out several weeks ago. We had 15 local residents attend. We actually, instead of holding your typical stakeholder meeting in one location, we actually move around the park. We have our staff from Neighborhood Outreach Services help us with bilingual translation on site. So we move through the park and we kind of get a sense of what people have heard, what they know about the existing project, and any other items they'd like to see. What we heard was a lot of the same items in terms of more turf, kind of the expanded basketball court. We're hearing more about trash receptacles at this point, and even lighting along the creek as well. So we have a couple more stakeholder meetings coming up. The next one will actually be this Saturday, June 29th, and then July 13th, both of those at 11 a.m. at Bonet Park. It's been a busy month in June. City Council passed the budget. So they adopted the fiscal year 2021 budget that actually include increased funding to the Parks and Recreation Department for the additional park ranger. And I can't thank those of you that came out to speak or submit comments to the City Council. It started with the update on homelessness issues here in Santa Barbara and what the city's doing to address those. That then proceeded into the budget hearings and then more discussions and so forth. So the department's actually receiving an additional $136,000, close to $137,000 in fiscal year 20, so this first year of the 2-year budget for the park ranger position, and then it drops slightly in fiscal year 21 because we don't have to purchase the vehicle. Given the time that it takes to recruit the park ranger, it's typically a 6-month recruitment. We're strategically working with finance to fund half the position and use the other funds to actually complete some of the other projects we presented to the commission. So making actual improvements at McKenzie Center and then also at Chase Palm Park just to help with delineating private areas. So things that we have up that are temporary right now, making them permanent. And then once the park ranger position is filled, the funding will fund that permanently moving forward. We just survived Solstice, so the confetti outreach is being successful. The amount of confetti that's being used for the parades is on the increase, and so there's a grassroots communication effort that's being led by the Creeks Division. The confetti is litter, so we're doing social media. There's being press releases, posters, flyers, short video, all at reducing kind of the plastic, glitter, mylar material, which actually ends up in the storm drains and then washes out. What I can tell you is that after the Solstice Parade, I talked with Cameron Benson, Creek's manager. He said that the difference between this year versus last year was significant. There was a major reduction in the amount of mylar and actually confetti litter on the sidewalks and in the gutters and so forth than what he had seen the previous year. And then other conversations that I shared around the city, you could actually hear people educating other citizens in the community about the use of it and trying to reduce it. So that effort will continue. Fiesta is probably just over a month away at this point. But it was a successful campaign at this point that will continue, and we did see some significant reductions at Solstice. And then the last item I have is Concerts in the Park kicks off for its 20th season. Judith McCaffrey is still helping us with this as she, in her retirement. It's the one program that she is so passionate about. She's kind of leading us through it this year. First concert kicks off July 11th. It'll feature Area 51, which is one of Santa Barbara's favorite dance bands. Last year, 25,000 people attended the first concert or the entire concert series. This year's lineup will continue to bring in large audiences. We've added one concert for this year. We're able to receive some more sponsorship funds, so we're actually doing a 5th concert this year. The way the holidays have fallen between 4th of July and also the Fiesta holiday, it's a little bit of a broken schedule, so it won't be 5 continuous weeks. But it takes place every Thursday in July and August on the dates that I'll read out from 6 to 8:30. So Area 51 kicks off July 11th. On July 18th, Pop Gun Rerun, which is an 80s music experience. Thursday, July 25th, Captain Cardiac and the Coronaries. I think they've been there every year since the concerts kicked off. Thursday, August 8th, Lightning Willie, which is the biggest little blues band on earth. And then August 15th, the last concert would be the Blues Breeze Band, Motown and Rhythm and Blues. I couldn't say enough about the fundraising effort that goes to provide this, and as I said, we've added a 5th concert. So I just want to recognize the sponsors for this year's group. The Forster Group at Morgan Stanley, Village Properties Realtors, Jan Bannister and Andy Katsev, the Santa Barbara Independent, K-Lite, KTYD, the Santa Barbara Ski Club, the Santa Barbara Blues Society, and The Voice Magazine. So hopefully we'll see you at some of these events, if not at the concert, and that completes the director's report for the month of June.
I want to say thank you for the confetti. It's hard for us all to change our habits, and we think that it can't be festive without it. It is a difficult change, I think, for the entire community, but I think it's one that we need to really do. It is pretty astounding what goes into our storm drains at Fiesta, and so I hope we figure out a new way to celebrate that and I thank Creeks for leading that charge.
I'd like to comment on McKenzie Park. My office is half a block away from there, so I have watched the construction and I've been wondering who would use it. It has to be every bit as popular as Kids World. I was absolutely astounded. There's 20 to 30 dogs in there by 11 a.m., romping around, social environment, very impressive, nice change to the city. So thank you for your efforts.
So I drove by McKenzie Park on the way here, and it was full of dogs. There had been at least 15 dogs with their respective owners, and there was not a single person there that wasn't in a park for a wholesome recreational experience. And when I first joined the commission, I heard staff talking about solving the problem of drug and alcohol use in our parks and vandalism through programming and creating spaces that people want to come to push out people who aren't being good citizens. And I think McKenzie Park is a prime example. I drove by there and I was so tickled, so thank you so much for that.
Chair Clark and Commissioners, I should add there will be an official ribbon cutting on July 11th at 11 a.m. and you'll be receiving those invitations sometime shortly.
Can we bring our dogs?
You can certainly bring your dogs.
And I think it's a model we need to replicate as we see the intensity happening downtown. And the people that are going to live here and the people that are working here are bringing their dogs to work. So I think it's something we need to keep in the forefront as far as some of our park usages, that this is a valid recreational use that a number of our people in our community deserve to have. So good job.
So my only, yes, I agree absolutely with all of that, and it's wonderful, and it's wonderful to see the dogs playing. The flip side is I spend a lot of time at Arroyo Burro, which is a leash area, and it's got brand new plantings of habitats that are trying to, they're trying to baby themselves along, and I see dogs rooting around off leash all the time there. And I've had a couple conversations with a couple people and been given quite a tongue lashing. So I think there's an equal and opposite education program. It's providing the access for the recreation off leash, but also educating the why when it's an on leash area. Why is it an on leash area, and what's the importance of keeping the dogs out of the habitat areas and cleaning up the poop.
And we can tell them where they can go. Yes, exactly. Because now we have multiple spots.
Exactly.
Okay. And if there is no other discussion, no, then I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.